Hello, I'm Chuck Wolf, Chief Executive for Charles J. Wolf Associates, LLC. As a motivational speaker and a leadership consultant and executive coach and trainer, I often work with very successful people in their companies. Since many can't afford a professional, I volunteer to host a radio talk show called The Emotion Roadmap, Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel, on a nonprofit community radio station in Bridgeport, Connecticut, WPKN. My reason for doing the show is to share with as many people as possible this wonderful process for helping people manage their own emotions and their relationships with others. My goal is for everyone listening to learn to use the Emotion Roadmap to make life better. As you listen to me, help others, I hope you are also learning. As a Simsbury resident, I'm delighted to be able to make the show available through Simsbury TV. To learn more, go to my website, www.emotionroadmap.com. Thank you for listening and watching. And you're listening to Chuck Wolf. This is the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. That's a regular listener. I really appreciate your interest in my show and you're tuning in on a regular basis. It's a pleasure to know that there are people out there that look forward to the show. Those of you that don't know the show, it's called the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And I'm Chuck Wolf, your host. And the show is on the first and second Wednesdays of each month in the noontime hour, the community hour for WPKN. And I'm really happy to welcome you here today. If you're a new person to the show, I always like to start off because I know that people are always tuning in to WPKN, and some of you are new to my show, so I'd like to explain a little bit about what the show is about. Again, the title is The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. So if you listen closely, the idea is that you have a lot of power to control how you feel. And many people, you included possibly, don't always feel like you have much control over how you're feeling. I've heard the expression, whatever it is you're feeling, you just have to deal with it. You have to deal with the cards you played. It is what it is. All kinds of, common expressions that sort of say that, this isn't really changeable. You just have to deal with it. Well, actually, there's a lot of new information about this whole field called emotional intelligence that indicates that you can control how you feel. And not only can you control how you feel, but you can influence how other people feel. Now, we all sort of intuitively know that. If you really stop and think about it, in many cases, you've been able to change your feelings. You've been able to help yourself when you've been anxious to become confident in settings where you needed to be confident. You've also been able to influence others to be excited about something you wanted them to engage in with you. Whether it's vacation planning or maybe a new product development if you're in the workplace, or just a lot of things that you might be able to just generate some excitement in some others. So if you think about it, we really do this. Although if I just say the words that you can change how you feel, you might think, what do you mean change how you feel? You feel what you feel. It is what it is. That's what I mean by common expression that just sort of says that, just deal with whatever it is that you have to deal with and don't worry about changing it. But changing it can be really helpful for whatever it is you want to get done. So I've devoted this hour to helping people who have emotionally challenging situations. And, the interesting thing about emotions is that we're always feeling something. I mean, you may not have thought about this in the way I'm going to say it in this in the next couple of minutes, but you're feeling something right now. And if you stop and think about what that might be, it might be curious. It might be interested. I hope you're not bored, but if you're bored, you might want to think about changing the channel. But you are feeling something, right? You're feeling something. So what is it that you're feeling? And is that feeling helpful? And while you don't have anything in particular in mind, you're just sort of listening to the radio as you're driving or as you're sitting at home in an easy chair or maybe at a table somewhere doing some work, and you just sort of took a little bit of time out to just listen to what might be on WPKN, which is always a good idea, by the way. If you want to just think about what you're listening to, I'm talking to you about your feelings. And now I've asked you to consider, what are you feeling? Now, it may not be very meaningful for you to stop and think about what you're feeling now, but what about when it is really meaningful? What if you've got a challenging situation to talk to somebody about? What if you have a conflict that's really driven a wedge between you and somebody important to you? at work, or at home? What if you have to make a tough decision about whether or not you want to move out of the country? And maybe it's a good decision in the sense that your company wants to promote you, but they want you to have an international experience, but you've got young children, and you're worried about moving your young children away from family and friends. Those are emotionally charged decisions, emotionally charged situations. And how you feel is important to how you think and how you act. And if how you think and act is like confused right now, it's because your feelings are confused. And so what I do in this show is I help people think through challenging situations that they face. I help you look at the emotional part of it. Ask you how you're feeling and how you want to feel. The idea of a roadmap is that it helps you to get from one place to another. Now, I know a lot of people use GPSs these days, and so you don't really look at maps in the same way that a lot of people that I knew growing up looked at maps. But we still have to get from one place to another. So you might think about an emotion roadmap as sort of a personal GPS that helps you to get from one feeling to another feeling. If the feelings you're having aren't helpful for what you're trying to do, then this show is all about helping you figure out what feelings would be helpful. In fact, what feelings would even be ideal to feel. And in helping you to discover what feelings would be different, better, and even ideal to feel, then I help you to plan, how do you get there? How do you get from what you are feeling to what you want to feel? And in helping you to do that, I'm hoping that this show teaches everybody who listens, especially those of you who listen on a regular basis, how to think for yourselves by using the emotion roadmap to help guide you in your challenges that you face on a daily basis, maybe on a yearly basis or weekly basis, but whatever challenges, whenever those challenges emerge, the idea of an emotion roadmap can always be helpful to you if you think to use it. And while I make it sound simple because I've been doing it so long, and I make it seem easy to help somebody if you call by understanding a lot of different things through a lot of life experience I've had, and I've been very privileged around some of the educational experiences I've had as well. I seem to make it simple. It's not simple, but it also isn't that difficult if you practice and you own it and you begin to use it regularly. And this is the emotion roadmap. Let me just walk you through it, and then I'll give you the phone number to call in case you're interested in speaking to me. The emotion roadmap works like this. So long, I'm Messiah. I hope you all listened to I'm Messiah's show and had a chance to enjoy that before I came on today. I always enjoy following I'm Messiah or Kyle Frano on the other Wednesday that I'm here. Really different shows, really good shows, all about what PKN is really blessed to be about, which is great programming and great programmers. So in any case, when you think about what is an emotion roadmap, it starts like this. Somebody's got a situation that they're facing. Let's just a common one I like to talk about because it's easy to understand is, let's say you've got a presentation to make and you're going to be talking to a group of people and you want to influence them. You want to convince them to do what you want them to do, or to buy into a product or service that you're selling, or just simply to entertain an idea that you have. Maybe it's about a new product for your company, or maybe it's about doing something different around vacation time with your family. But whatever it is, it's something that you feel is important to get right when you say it. And yet you're feeling kind of anxious about it. And if it's a family situation about vacationing, maybe you've had a plan that's worked for a lot of years. You've gone to the same place. Everybody loves going there, but you'd like to do something different. And you don't want people upset that you want to change what's worked for so long, but at the same time, you want to allow people to entertain the notion that maybe doing something different this year would be a good thing to do. And that's a possibility. And you don't want to blow it because you're really thinking that it's important to do something different this year for whatever reason. Or, as I said, if maybe you've got a client presentation to make, and there's a group of people in the room, all of whom may buy your client and may fund you for years to come in your business. So it's a really, really important conversation that you're about to have with people, and it begins with a presentation on your part, and you're feeling anxious, and you want to feel confident about it. How do you get there? So I help you to think about the feelings that you're having, the importance of the situation we talk about, and then we talk about the feelings that would be ideal to have if you could make magic happen and feel the way you really wanted to feel, needed to feel. And you could do that. That'd be great. Now the question is, how do you do it? So you start with, what are you feeling, and what is anybody that's key to what you're doing feeling? And then you think about what would be ideal to feel for you as an individual, and then for anyone else who might be part of this, that's key to the situation, how is he or she or they feeling? And then what would really be ideal for them to feel, and what would be ideal for you to feel, and how do you get there? That's the concept of an emotion roadmap. What is it that you're feeling? What would be ideal to feel? How do you move from what is to what would be ideal? And then you consider a number of different strategies that are possible ways that you might get, say, from anxious to confident. We explore that together, and then I help you to select the strategy that you're both willing to do and able to do. And it's really important. Those are two different kinds of issues. One is willingness, and the other is capability. You might be willing to do something and not capable. And on the other hand, which is sometimes strange, it seems, but you might be capable, but there may be reasons for that are, maybe they're good reasons, but sometimes they're not such good reasons, but you might be unwilling to do something that's going to get you what you want. And yet, even though you're capable, you're unwilling to do it. And it's often an interesting discussion to find out why you're unwilling. But if you're unwilling and you're unable, if you don't have either one of them, obviously you can't do something that we consider a possible way to move from anxious to confident. But if you're willing but unable, you probably can't get it right either. And if you're able but unwilling, you're probably not going to do it even though you could. The strategies that work are the ones where you say, yes, I'm very willing to do this and I'm capable. When you can answer yes to both of those, I'm willing and I'm capable, then you got a plan that's going to work. So that's how the show works for everybody. So what I'd like to do is just ask you, if you have something that you'd like to share with me that you want to call in about, I'll give you the number in just one moment. Before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about what the topic is for the day, because I always like to have on the show a topic that I address with people, because sometimes I don't have people just waiting, can't wait to call me. It's not an easy call to make, right? I mean, you've got something that's been bothering you, that's upsetting you, that's challenging you. First, it's hard to admit it. Number two, it's hard to talk to somebody on the radio about it. And three is, why would I think somebody on the radio has got any kind of chance to help me when I've had this going on for a week, a month, a year or more, and I haven't been able to figure it out. So a couple things about that. One is, I have a background in psychology. I used to be a therapist, had a lot of wonderful education at Northeastern University and at Harvard University, and I've worked with people at Yale University on this concept of emotional intelligence. And so I have a background that lends itself to really being helpful to people and getting people to trust me and encourage you to share with me something going on for you. And the thing that's a real gift is, if you want to call and share with me something going on for you and I can help you, it's a gift to everybody listening. And what I mean by that is, I don't want to just help you as an individual. As much as that's important to me, and it really is, I like making a meaningful difference in people's lives if I can. But I also want to make a larger difference for everyone that's listening, in the sense, if I can help you with something that you're grappling with, struggling with, confused about, if I can help you, I'm helping everybody by teaching them how to use this emotion roadmap, by teaching people how to think about what they are feeling, what would be ideal to feel, and how to change from the feelings you have to the feelings you need. If I can help everybody who's listening to learn how to do that by helping you, then it's a gift to everybody. Everybody wins. But it's not easy to make that call. I know that. So I hope you do. And I've got about 45 minutes here. I'm happy to help you if you want to call in. And I'll give you the number 1 second. The last thing I want to mention is, if I don't have callers, the thing I want to talk about today is feedback. How do you give someone useful, constructive feedback? What makes it work? What makes it challenging? And how do you do it in a way that really is a way that people can hear it, understand it, and use it? How do you give feedback constructively? So I'll be talking about that. But first, I always like to have a show where I've got callers. It's always much more interesting to me, and hopefully to you as well, if you want to call in. So I'm going to give you the number I'm going to kick back and wait a moment or two after I give it to you to see if anybody wants to call. Again, the number to call, for the first time actually, the number to call is 203 336 9756. 203 336 9756. And if you're a new listener to the show and you don't know what it's okay to call about, you can call about anything. You can call about anything at work. We have a disagreement with someone you work for, somebody you work with, someone who works for you. We have a decision to make at work, or you have a challenging, confrontational meeting that's about to come up with someone in another part of the organization, or with a customer, or with a vendor, or with a teammate, whoever. Lots of times challenges, emotional challenges, show up as disagreements or difficulties with other people. Sometimes, though, it's a challenge inside yourself. You're just struggling with what's the right thing to do for you. And again, either one of those things, either in the workplace or with someone at home where you're struggling with a family member, maybe it's a partner or a spouse, a daughter or a son, an in-law, a mother-in-law, anybody really. The whole idea is that you have something going on for you, something you want to deal with, something that you're really concerned about. And if you want to share that with me in hopes of getting some ideas that might be helpful to you, and also hopefully helping everybody else that's listening, give me a call. Again, the number, and I'll wait a few minutes after I say it a couple times here, 203 336 9756. 203 336 9756. I'll give you a moment to call in case you want them. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who's calling, please?
This is Leo.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for the call. How can I help you today? Oh, you're on the air. I should tell you, Leo, right away. Sorry.
Okay. I'll ask a question. I'm going to hang up and listen because I'm driving.
Okay.
So I've got I'm a salesman, and we've got some goals here that have been set. They're totally unrealistic, and I think everyone knows it. The entire sales force and company are way behind plan here 6 months through the year. And just, in meetings, I'm tempted to say to the boss, you've got a lot of pressure on you. We understand we've got unrealistic goals that were set. We're behind plan. But what's the best way to say that without being too confrontational or too, it's ridiculous. We're not going to hit them. I know that management's not allowed to say that, but they've got to be more realistic coming into the second half of the year. What's the best way to go about that?
Can you stay on with me for a little bit while I just kind of explore it a little bit? So my guess is everybody else knows this too. Am I right?
Without question. It's just something we all talk about, but it's the elephant in the room.
Okay, so when you say we all talk about it, the people that in your same spot as you, other salespeople, are feeling this,
Correct.
But they're worried about bringing it up to the boss.
Correct.
So I'm going to just make a guess here because I've worked with a lot of organizations, Leo, and I'm assuming that the boss got to know this too. He's not. I mean, you don't get to be boss and not understand that you have unrealistic expectations, and that the expectations that get sent down from corporate. By the way, and if you're in the sales field for a while, and this isn't new to you, there's so many people that are in the same spot as you are. It's almost unbelievable. Right?
Right.
Okay. So it's not like you're alone in this. And so it's not like the boss doesn't know this, but he can't be openly seen, I think, right? Talking about
Correct.
this with you as if he doesn't support it.
Right.
So I would ask you to think about, your question to me was, what's the best way to present it to him? Number one is, I don't think you need to present it to him. I think he already knows.
Okay.
Number two is, I think that the question becomes, what do we do about it more than bring it to his attention? How do we make the case for what we are capable of doing and celebrate that if we get to survive? Right? I mean, because at some point, people who don't make sales quotas, which happens every year, some of the people don't make it because the people are embarrassed who set the goals, and somebody pays a penalty for that, and that's awful. But that does happen. And so I want to be reality based here. So the question becomes on a couple of levels. One, Leo, you got to ask yourself, is this something that goes on all the time in this firm, and I'm never going to be able to reach quota, or nothing's ever going to be realistic? Do you feel like that's true?
I am too new to know that.
Okay, so then for the time being, then, one of the things that will happen in this cycle is people will go back and revisit this at the end and say, we didn't meet our goals. What didn't we do? And one of the questions will be, did we set the goals unrealistically high? So at some point, this all comes around and recycles, and you don't have to say anything about it. But you do have to live within your own skin. And what I would say to you is this isn't so much about changing what the rest of the world already knows but isn't talking about, with each other, except within the SEALs team. I would say to you, you want to control your own emotions around this, Leo, to this extent. I mean, the best help I can give you is advice to say, don't engage in these conversations with your peers. Other than, I wouldn't challenge it, and I wouldn't just walk away when they talk about that. But I would say be very careful about what you add to the discussion, because you never can tell who's going to be reporting back who's not on board with the goals. You really can't tell that.
Okay.
So does that help at all, at least in terms of helping you to survive?
Yeah, that's good information.
Okay, so that's number one. And again, I wouldn't walk away. I'd sort of nod my head, but I wouldn't be complicit, and I wouldn't have any quotes that I would utter that anybody could say back to somebody, hey, this is what Leo said about this stuff.
Okay.
Now, that'll help protect you. So, and the other thing I'd say is, okay, the people have given me some pretty unrealistic goals. And I'd look around and say, is anybody coming close? And what is it that they're doing? And if I speak at all, and I see anything that looks like a best practice out there, and I try to engage in that best practice myself, one of the things that you can do to try to elevate your own status, but not in a negative way, not to put you above other people, but just to come as close as you can to reaching what are pretty unrealistic goals, is to try and look around you and see, is anybody doing something I'm not that I could try? And then try to get some help from the person who's your boss, just to say, I'm trying some things here. I'm trying really hard to reach these goals. And you could have a conversation like that. Do you have any other advice for me? Any other thoughts? And maybe the boss will say what he needs to say to you privately. But you can, but not in a way that you're saying, hey, this is just nuts. You have to be careful that you don't get into a conversation that points in that direction. But instead, you're asking, I'm kind of new here. I'm kind of finding my way. I'm trying real hard to reach these goals. I'm having some successes in these small ways, but I also am looking for any other advice you can give me. Because people love that. As a manager, anybody that comes to you as a leader and says, look, can you give me some other ideas as my leader that are going to help me help you so we're both successful? So I would engage in the conversation that way. And to the extent that you are with other people that are being negative about this stuff, I would say, look, I understand what you're all saying. What are some of the things we can do to at least try and come as close as we can to these goals? And try to elevate the conversation to a level where people begin thinking a little differently about, yeah, I know they're unrealistic, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try and get as close as we can. And I wouldn't be critical of anybody or judgmental of anything that anyone said. I would just try to elevate the discussion and try and bring everybody up a little bit by saying, has anybody got some things that they're doing that are helping at least, accomplish some of these goals? Here's something I just tried that seems to be working a little better. And so my encouragement to you is, number one, in the sales profession, I think you're going to live with unrealistic goals, and it's not like leaving your company. You're going to find some place that doesn't set really tough goals on salespeople. Having said that, some organizations are much more realistic than others, but a lot of them set completely crazy goals, and everybody kind of knows it, and the expectations are never met, and people just move on to the next year and do it all over again, and people keep going. But if someone can be a voice of encouragement, if someone can be a voice of reason, if someone can elevate the discussion, if someone can encourage the boss to think about what else can the boss be sharing, not just with you, but with everybody, that might help to come a little bit closer to those goals, I think you're going to find yourself feeling a lot better about what's going on for you.
I appreciate that. I think you've just pulled me out of a dangerous path where I thought I had to go down. But you're right. I don't need to go down that path because if they don't know it, then, that's a whole nother issue. But I agree with you. Everyone does know it, and there's no reason to point out the elephant in the room that everyone knows. It's not going to benefit me in the long run.
Or anybody, really. I mean, it's just going to create a, kind of that spiraling downward into the gutter conversation about ain't it awful and aren't our people that we work for terrible, and all that at some point gets back into the corporate boardroom where people make decisions about who gets to stay, and there's penalties to be paid for that kind of stuff.
Well, I appreciate the advice. I've got to get back in now.
Okay. Good to talk to you, Leo. Thanks a lot for the phone call.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. So Leo didn't have much time, so I didn't go all the way through it. But let me kind of debrief that for you so you understand what's behind the things that I said. So how is your boss feeling? How is Leo's boss feeling? And the chances are he's feeling pretty frustrated. How are Leo's colleagues feeling? They're frustrated and upset because they're challenged to reach goals that are impossible. That's how they're feeling. How is Leo feeling? Like, he needs to be truthful and honest and tell the truth and let people know what's going on. And how does everybody want to feel with what's happening? So we know what Leo's feeling, or at least we have a sense from listening to the conversation. We can guess what his boss is feeling, frustrated probably, and his coworkers are angry, upset, and frustrated too. Now, what would be ideal to feel, right? What would be ideal to feel is that while we recognize that we have unrealistic goals, we also recognize that lots of companies set unrealistic goals. So we want to feel comfortable in our own skin that we can achieve realistic goals that we know are possible, and that we do it, and we can feel satisfied, maybe even good, that we're capable of doing something towards accomplishing goals that at least allow the company to stay in business and allow all of us to continue to survive in these roles. So we want to feel satisfied that we've got a plan to help us. We also want to feel calm around the maelstrom that's surrounding us, because if we feel like we're drowning and we have to talk about the fact that we're drowning, we're all just going to drown together. But if we stir the pot in a way that benefits everybody, if we can raise the level of engagement, get people to feel like, you know what, let's focus on what we can do instead of this, this feeling about negativity and all the stuff we can't do. Let's focus on what we can do, because that's going to make us feel a little more excited and engaged. Let's talk a little bit, if we can, about anybody who's got a best practice out there that might be working for them. Some things that they're trying that are new and innovative that might be useful for all of us to know. Let's get our boss involved by encouraging him to talk to us more about, okay, so we know we've got these really incredible stretch goals. We all get that. And so what else can we be doing? Here's the things we're doing that we think are pretty good. But what other advice do you have for us? What other things might we be trying? Let's see if we can brainstorm together. And we certainly want your leadership and your knowledge and your experience to help guide us. So you're encouraging your boss to feel probably a lot better than he or she is feeling today. And that's all possible by letting go of the need to say, hey, there's something terrible happening here, and I just want to call it to everybody's attention. My guess, everybody already knows it's happening. Bring it into the room with you, and saying ain't it awful doesn't elevate anybody and just makes things, there's something called emotional contagion, and the emotional contagion going on right now in that organization is pretty negative. People feeling really upset about impossible goals. And yet the reality is lots of companies set these kind of goals. And so you just have to find some way to deal as best you can by reaching inside yourself and extending yourself to others to try and find the best possible ways that all of us can be innovative in how we approach doing the best we can with what's available to us. And when we've got something that's really good that we've found that's working for us, just to share it. If it's, some companies are very competitive between salespeople and they don't encourage sharing. That's a disaster, I think. But if you can find a way to make your team feel collaborative and like a team where we all care about each other, and people are sharing things that are working and best practices, so that you're moving towards getting goals done. You may not ever achieve the ultimate what is considered impossible goals, but you may reach some improbable goals, things you didn't think you were capable of, by this more engaging, satisfying sensibility and feelings that you can create by focusing on what we can do, not what we can't do. By encouraging your leader to come in and help support you and maybe help support the team, by bringing in his or her expertise and life knowledge about how to handle these kind of things without saying, hey, this is terrible, we got crazy goals, don't those people understand anything, which is typically where this conversation has gone in the past, in my experience. And that's why I wanted to help Leo turn that around in his own mind. He doesn't have to do all the other things with the other people, but it starts with you in yourself. But it also benefits the others if you can be a positive force in what seems like a very negative setting. So that's how it works, everybody. It's the idea of there's an emotion roadmap that can help guide you from what you are feeling to what you want to feel. So let's see if we can get somebody else in here that has a question or two that they want to ask. And again, the number's 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So if you're sitting back thinking, well, I wonder if I should make that call. I wonder if it's really worth talking to him. That was pretty interesting what I just heard. And we have a caller. Hi, this is... Oh, could you turn your radio down?
I turned it off.
Yeah, thank you. This is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, it's Lydia.
Hi, Lydia. Thanks for the call.
Oh, thank you for asking us to call, and thanks for your show. I turned on just like in the middle of your conversation with Leo, so I'm not sure what kind of questions we can ask.
Well, it's pretty open-ended. So it's anything that you have is a challenging situation in your life. The show's called The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And through a series of questions, I try to guide people on understand. You probably heard me debrief the last part of it. So it's trying to help you understand what's going on emotionally. And it often, by talking about the emotions in play, gives people options that they never considered before. So that's what the show's about. So feel free to ask anything, really.
Okay. Well, I'll just give you a little background of the situation. I'm 59. I moved back home to take care of my mom, who has dementia, and my dad is deceased.
Okay. What was your first name again? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
Oh, Lydia.
Lydia. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And so now my mom's in a nursing home because it just became too much for me to take care of her, and I'm turning the house into an Airbnb. I'm starting with one room, and I don't know if it's because I'm older. I'm under a lot of stress, so the stress is taking its toll on me, and I'm tired. It just seems like I can't get it off the ground. And some of the problem has been finances. Like I needed stuff to fix up the house, and I needed to pay people to help fix up the house. And I don't know if I'm putting unrealistic expectations on myself, but it just seems like a day will go by and I will have accomplished what seems like in 5 hours, I will have accomplished what seems like maybe an hour's worth of work.
So it feels like you're not moving fast enough, and you're feeling somewhat stressed, and you're also feeling a lot of you're questioning yourself about whether or not, what's wrong with you is what I hear behind your question. Is that sort of how you're feeling?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'm being too hard on myself or if this would be normal.
What's your best guess? I mean, because you already have the questions in mind. Are you thinking that it's just you, or do you think that this happens to a lot of people?
I think it may be stuff. It could be the emotional stuff. I think it's quite possibly the emotional stuff, and could quite possibly be the money, because it takes me a while to get the money together.
Sure.
To pay the contractor to fix the bathroom or something like that. And the other thing is like communicating to. I've got my cousins working for me, and it's just sometimes I'm wondering. Sometimes I wish I could just think or I don't know. I just wish I could tell them telepathically what needs to be done. So, kind of what's happening is, it might take 10 minutes to explain to so and so how to work the rug cleaner. Like we had a snag with that because I didn't know how to work it, and I didn't know who to ask, and I asked like 3 different people, and nobody could figure it out. Finally, after 3 weeks, I got somebody who it took him an hour to figure it out. So it took like 3 weeks to clean a rug, just something like that.
Right. Okay. So these are things that seem like they should be simple, and yet sometimes they seem overly complicated.
Yes.
And it includes sometimes, technical, mechanical kinds of things. Sometimes it's relationship issues. Sometimes it's fundraising or raising the cash that you need. And so there's a multitude of different challenges that you're facing, and all of which seem like they shouldn't take this long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then I feel like I'm moving too slow. Like, I'm 59. I'm almost 60. I don't want to accept that I'm moving slower than I did when I was like 50 or 55.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is that a thing? Because I've never been, this is the first time that I'm coming up against, well, I'm getting older. Am I moving slower because I'm older? I don't even want to say it loud. See, I'm whispering it. I don't know. It's like a combination of both. Then I have scatterbrain. So, I'm washing the dishes. Then I get ready to throw something away. Then I get ready. Then I'm like, oh, man, the trash needs to be taken out. So then I go around because it's trash day, taking all the trash. This is like in the middle of me washing dishes. And I take all the trash. Then I'm like, oh. I go by here and like, oh, yeah, I could put those chairs out because we just finished cleaning the rug. So put the chairs back in the room. Then I hear you say, oh, would anybody like to call in? And here I am.
So there you go. So I'm one of those distractions. Huh?
No, it's me plugging into distractions.
Yeah, no, and I get it. So let's just talk about how you're feeling. Okay, so the feelings that you're having, it seems like you're a bit frustrated. You're also a little bit upset about the aging thing and possibly slowing down, and also feeling unfocused. Mm-hmm. Right? And so the opposite of is often how you want to feel. So you want to feel like comfortable in your own skin, however old you are, whatever period of time it is. You want to feel focused. That's really important to what you're trying to get done, right?
Right.
And you also want to feel satisfied that it's moving reasonably well.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me add one other thing to this, because it sounds like you did a very nice thing to come home, take care of your mom. Now it's, she's kind of in the home, and so you're trying to figure out what's the next plan for you. You got a plan. You're involving your cousins. You wish people would get right away what they need to get from you that's in your head. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how you make those feelings happen. So one thing I would add, I would say, I think you want to plan for some fun in your day.
Mm-hmm. But then I feel guilty about having fun because I haven't gotten enough done.
And that's, part of it. Okay, so let's talk about that too. Okay, because we don't want you to feel guilty. But the reason I say have a little bit of fun in the day is because, you got a pretty good plan. It sounds like you've got a way of thinking about getting it done. And I'm going to tell you some things that will allow you to relax a little bit more, so you don't feel as stressed. That I think just knowing some things is going to help you that way. It doesn't necessarily mean it goes faster for you, but it means that you're more accepting of where you are. So let me just start by doing it this way. One of the ways that you change your emotions so you're a little more satisfied and a little more comfortable in your age is there was a great book called Passages. I don't know if you're a reader, and you might feel guilty if you took time out to read because you got a project to do. But I'm just telling you, in case at some point you want to pick up a book. It was by Gail Sheehy, Sheehy. And Gail wrote a book called Passages. They just talk about the different decades that we experience and what happens to us. But I can tell you without you reading the book that, yes, you do slow down. I mean, you do. It's not unusual. There may be a person or two that doesn't really slow down, but for most people, as you age and go through different chapters in life, you're not moving quite as fast. You're not thinking as fast. You're not reacting as fast. You don't have as much energy. However, that doesn't mean that life is not as good, because part of what's happening also as you age, for most people, not everybody, but a lot of people get a lot more wisdom as they age. In other words, some of the things that used to upset us when we were younger don't upset us so much anymore because we've learned how to cope and deal with those things better.
Mm-hmm.
So I would try and think that there's a combination of things happening. I mean, it sounds like you've got a pretty good plan. My guess is if you were 20 years old, you wouldn't know how to make this happen.
Oh, you're right. That's a good point.
But you'd have a hell of a lot more energy. But you wouldn't know how to make this happen. So my point to you is that there's good and bad that comes with aging. And my point is, just kind of be accepting of the fact that, there's some things here that I'm a little smarter about. And one of the things that you need to be a little smart about is I'm also feeling pretty stressed. And so stress gets in the way of being focused. Do you agree?
I hadn't thought about it like that. Yeah, that makes sense.
So a little less stress will help you a little more with being focused. And one of the ways you're a little less stressed is that you build a little time in for you, whether it's to read, to listen to PK and on a music, one of the programs you might like to listen to, or something else. Maybe go for a walk if you enjoy walking and you haven't in a place where you can walk, or just go out in a car ride and go see a movie, or to listen to some music someplace. It's just do something for you. Because every day, if you know there's an hour in the day that you're going to do something for you, makes the rest of the day something easier to cope with.
Oh, every day. Now, see, that's interesting that you say that. I've heard that. But I thought, there's no way I can do something fun every day. First of all, I can't think of anything fun every day.
Well, start off by doing, figure Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I mean, do it every other day. But, try, because every day might be really hard for you right away. But and it doesn't have to be long. 15 minutes of listening to music or something. It doesn't have to be a long time, but just something that you feel like, you know what, at the end of the day, I didn't get everything done. I got some things done, but I managed to get something done for me. And I feel good about that. And it helps me to relax, and I feel a little less stressed, and it allows me to focus better.
That's a good idea.
Is that helpful?
Very good idea. Yeah, that's a very good idea.
So these are things that you're capable of doing, right?
Right.
And then the question is, are you willing? Because let me tell you what you're going to be up against. But this is the hard part, because it sounds simple, but and by the way, this is the other thing I just want to say to you is that there's a lot of days I put things on my list that should take me, I think, in 5 hours. I should get a lot done, and I usually get done an hour and a half worth of work myself. I think that's normal for people. I mean, I can't tell you. I do a lot of coaching with people in organizations, and when I go in and I look at the to-do list at the beginning of the day, you know what? They get a lot of things done, but they aren't what was on that list.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, it's a lot of people. That's my point to you. I want you to feel more comfortable, Lydia, that it happens to a lot of people because you get a phone call from somebody, your mom needs something, somebody calls you and it's unexpected. Your cousins were supposed to show up and couldn't. I mean, there's lots of things that you have to manage during the day that weren't on the plan.
Yeah, and the other thing is I have about like an hour and a half to 2 hours of just maintenance stuff. Taking out the recycling, changing the kitty litter, feeding the cats, self-care, getting up, taking a shower, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
2 hours, and then eating.
Right. I mean, it's all part of what happens to all of us. We all have things that are part of our everyday routine that take time. So, I don't think there aren't things that you can typically cut out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really cut out feeding the cat. I mean, you might skip a day on the kitty litter, but there's consequences to all these things, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, you have a routine. It makes sense. I mean, you can reevaluate your routine from time to time to see what, can you do it quicker, better, smarter, or do some things a little less often if possible. I mean, I don't know what those all might be, but, you can kind of walk through that list periodically just to see if something's changed. But for the most part, I think if you can make a little time for you, not at the end of the 6 or 7 hours of real work time that you have, and you realize that you got 1.5 hours of stuff done that was on your list, and the other stuff didn't get done. You just move it to the next day, and you're okay with it because you almost expect that to happen. And on a day when you get most of it done, you have a little drink at the end of the day to celebrate. But the expectation. The expectation is that you have a list and you're never going to get the whole list done, but get as much of it as you can done and feel good about what you achieved as opposed to not good about what you didn't get done.
Thank you.
That help?
Yes, a lot. It helps a lot.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the phone call, Lydia. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. So again, that's this in this case is Lydia just trying to understand, what happened, what happens in her day, and how to think differently and feel differently about it. Take the wheel and control how you feel, right? Did we change anything? Not a lot. Make a little bit of time for her, help her to understand a little bit more about what's going on, make her feel okay about the fact that, hey, we all slow down. But at the same time we slow down, we're also typically, again, not everybody gets wiser as they get older, but typically most of us get somewhat wiser as we get older. And so in getting wiser, we're a little smarter about what we're doing. And we should be grateful for that. And also accepting of the fact that, hey, we're slowing down some. It's part of the deal. It's part of the journey. Okay, so I hope, again, that you're learning about how you might help guide others by thinking about what it is that a person is feeling, what it is that would be ideal or at least better for them to feel, and some ways that you can think about getting that done, and then trying to come up with a plan to do it. So hopefully that's been helpful to you on those two different issues, and so it's always good to have callers, folks. So if you want to call in, I've got a little more time. If not, I'll talk about feedback some. But again, if you've got something going on for yourself and you want to call in and talk about it, the number to call is 203-336-9756. And I've got time for probably one more phone call. So if you're somebody out there thinking about calling, make sure it's you that calls right now. 203-336-9756. Okay. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to? Oh, please, you turn your radio down.
I can.
Thank you. I'm sorry. What was your name?
Hang on. Is that better?
Yeah, that's fine.
I am calling.
Oh, first, could you tell me what I can call you?
You can call me Maya.
Maya. Okay, thanks, Maya.
I liked what you were talking about team building, and I wondered if you could say more about it. I'm in different situations, both professionally and personally, where I'm working on building teams, and I liked what you were saying about strategies. I wonder if you could say a little more
about building teams. Sure. I mean, I can. Well, first, let me just say, I know there's another caller on the line. I probably won't get to you. I'm sorry about that, and I don't have somebody else who can pick the phone up. So just to let anybody else know, while I'm talking to you, I can't pick up other calls. But let me just say, Maya, that there's different ways to build teams, and I can talk in general. But if you want to talk a little bit about the kind of team you have, I might be able to be more specific.
Yeah, so I have a team at work that's built of professionals. We teach ballet for a living.
Okay.
And there's a new director who's now come in, who's wonderful and super talented. However, there's some dissension among other team members, because change is difficult and, the approach is slightly different to the students. So that's one arena where I'm dealing with building a team in a positive way, right, where people, as you were saying, work well together, support each other, know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
And then also in my personal life, I'm a single mom raising a son, and my son's father and a stepmother live nearby, right? So there's all sorts of negotiation going on around, raising the child. And
sure.
I'm trying to be, positive also, right, and team building around the mission in that arena, which is to raise this healthy, happy kid, and how can we best do that? And best practices. I like when you talk about best practices because I think a lot of us don't know what they are, and they're
sure,
different for different situations.
Right.
So can you talk to me a little bit about those things?
Sure.
Any of those things?
Sure. I also have to be careful about managing my time, but I have about 7 minutes. So let me try and be, just kind of walk you through what I think might be helpful in both situations without engaging you more than I would if I had more time. Let me just kind of be straightforward and share with you some things that I think will help. Number one, with the ballet. Let me start there. So when you have a group of professionals, you want to understand that while your approach to other people in that group is going to be what's fair and useful is what you think is fair and useful. And what I want to suggest is that's a great place to start. But I also want to just point out to you and everybody else that's listening is that people are different. Things sometimes are important to others in ways that are different than what we think is important. And so one of the things that helps build teams is for a recognition of what is diverse about teams, not the obvious things like color and gender and things like that, but what do people care about, and how is that different than what I care about? So, for instance, some team members may not care about this idea of being a good team. What they care about is their own advancement and their own professional development and being the best that they can be, and they don't care so much about the other members in the way that you might. So that's what just the recognition that people might be different on different levels. And yet, if you show you care about them and help them with the things that they care about, they'll care about you.
And I really do care about them. I really am interested. We've worked well together for years. So that's a genuine feeling.
Okay. And then the other is that if you want to help people adapt to change, which is one of the things that you had said, that you have a new person coming in, they're terrific, but some people are struggling with the idea that any change is difficult to deal with, then you want to think about how are they feeling about the change? How do you want them to feel about the change? What would create their more open and acceptance towards the change? How can you help them to see that change can be positive and beneficial, not just something to resist? Until you, some people, let me just talk a little bit about trust, because the thing that makes teams work best is when there's a high degree of trust among all the players.
Sure, of course.
And one of the things
and the opposite of that is fear. They're afraid that they will be disrespected or not trusted or not honored.
Right, but let me explain something about trust that a lot of people don't understand. There's an exercise I do with groups sometimes where I ask people to just pick a number. If you were going to start with a new person brand new to you, and you really knew very little about them, but you just knew you were going to have to work closely with them. They were going to work as a team member with you, they were going to be your boss, or they were going to work for you. But anyway, you were getting this person, but you didn't know much about them. What would be your approach to them in terms of trusting them? Would you assume that you could trust them, and from a scale of 1 to 10, be at a 10 level, total trust until given reason to not trust? Or would you be on the other end at a 1 level where you never really trust anybody until some period of time goes by?
Interesting, yeah.
What would you say about yourself?
I'm implicitly trustful.
Yeah, okay.
I'm implicitly trustful, and I have team members who are implicitly not.
That's my point. See, some people, when I do this exercise, there are people that start on either, somewhere above the 5, but closer to the 10, and some people that start, hardly anybody says 1, but they'll say 2 or 3, and people don't usually say 10, but they say 9 or 8. Because they leave a little wiggle room on either end. But the point I want to make is that the people that start for whatever reason, and they often have, there's another exercise I do I don't have time to talk about, but it's how do your trust, your ideas about trust form, and people that don't have high trust, there's often some very negative things that have happened to them, and so they choose to be distrusting and want to be pleasantly surprised. But my point, then again, I'm going to run out of time, but the point I want to make to you is that the way you help people deal with change, you assume that they don't trust the new person coming in the same way they trusted the old person. They'd figure whatever the old person had, they'd figured out a relationship that worked for them, and now they're going to start all over. And so the way that you help them is by helping them to see whatever there is that's positive about the new person coming in.
Absolutely, yeah. And I like that idea.
And understand that their distrust isn't something that is bad about them. It's just a lot of life experiences have led them to that point. And just try to be understanding and compassionate and not expect it to happen too fast, but to whatever extent you can, find ways to encourage it. So let me. That's all I got time to say on that. The other part about the child and the step, your ex-husband and the stepmom, the thing I would encourage you to think about in any of the interactions where your child's involved is the key thing you want to think about. You're always going to know what your own feelings are, and that's important. But I think the most important thing in a relationship like this is what is your child's feelings. So the things you might be tempted to say or do relative to the other, your ex and the other person, sometimes it's going to feel right to you, but it might cause conflict and upset for your child. And you can't hide the truth. I don't mean to be lying, obviously, but you also want to be thoughtful about how your child's likely to feel about any of the ways that you talk about what's going on between you and the other people. So to the extent you can,
I completely get that. And I'm really very supportive. And I really like both of those people, both my son's father and his girlfriend.
Okay.
And yet still there are instances where I feel like the team could work better. And there are things where like, people don't like to talk to each other, that sort of stuff, where there are unspoken things.
Yeah.
I know you don't have time, but do you have a resource like a book or a podcast? What would I do to find out more about what you say?
How about calling me back when I'm back on? But because I don't really have anything specific to this, but I do. It's a worthwhile topic, and the one thing I will say to you is when you think that there's something worth talking about, ask to talk to your ex, but talk to him with the focus being on your child's feelings. And I think, given what you talked about in the relationship, I think that if the focus is always on your child, I think you'll find the cooperation is greatest when you both understand that, hey, we're both doing whatever we're doing, or wherever my concerns are because of how it reflects on our son.
Well, that is the idea of building the team, right? That's the team around raising the child.
That's the common goal.
That's a good positive thing, too. I want it to be good and positive, and, it won't be easy, but we can certainly figure it out.
Yeah, I do have a podcast on. If you go to SoundCloud, you can find it. It's about raising children. There was one episode that I did on that, and if you can't find it, you can email me, and I'll send you a link. My email is
okay.
I don't know if you. My email is.
I have a pencil right here.
Okay, CJWOLFE@CJWOLFE.com. It's not specific about your situation, but it is about parenting. So.
All right, it's been really helpful.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it, Maya.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.